part two of Are You Even Christian? And I just want to make it clear that I'm really making this video to point out that a lot of these things aren't Christian like, and that you need to question when you see these things, as well as I'm explaining what it should be or what it should like when you are a Christian. But again, I was saying about the First Lady that I just noticed that her public character and her private character were different, and the same thing goes for the husband. And actually, his public in the pulpit was still pretty rough. Like, there was times where we were going to church and in the sermon mentioned that people were going to church to be able to shower, or he would say other comments, but that's the only one that I specifically remember when I was at that church. I'm gonna turn on the light. Hold on. I just know that when we were there, I never felt so homeless and demeaned and absolutely disrespected until this church tried to help us. And it seemed when it wasn't getting out of homelessness wasn't an easy fix, or when their opinions and thoughts didn't work for us, it felt like they blamed us for it not working, or them not seeing the change that they expected immediately, as well as they were just mean, which isn't the fruit of the spirit. Oh, and I was also saying that when the pastor was, I remember one time I was walking and the pastor saw me, and he like hid behind a door to get away from engaging with me. And then, but when it was at church, he just didn't engage with us. I don't even think we ever had a conversation with him the entire 7 months that we went to the church or were being helped out by the church. Yeah, there was a lot of confusion as well. And I was like, God, how is this you? Because if I know I'm called and this pastor's supposed to be called, how is he not being corrected? How come he's saying these things in the pulpit and he doesn't feel bad about them? And then I've noticed that when you're homeless, people feel as if they're entitled to know why you're homeless, and they feel entitled to know what you spend your money on and why you're homeless, because they just assume that it's because you are spending your money improperly, or that you're just irresponsible. And that's how we were treated by the church. Like, people would just come up to me and be like, hey, how are you? You got a job? And I'm like, I don't know you. It's super bright for me. But, so, and then I would notice that sometimes one person would ask me something, and then another person would come up to me and ask me a question related to the last person's question. And I was like, okay, you guys are just gossiping. And I don't even talk to you guys, but somehow you know stuff that I didn't tell you, or you assume stuff that I didn't tell you, or we didn't tell you. So it was clear that there was a lot of gossip, and it was a lot of people demanding our time and energy and space because they felt like they had a right to it because we were homeless or less than. Oh, I noticed also that when we started, well, I already said in the last video that because the car was because the brain died. I lost a lot of my clothes because it was in the trunk. But when I started getting nicer clothes that I literally didn't even have to pay for, I got them from um, I got them from a food pantry that had free clothes. So I literally was wearing free clothes because I couldn't afford to buy clothes. And people in the church started being like, "Oh, did you see her jacket? Isn't her jacket nice?" It was very condescending energy as well as a classism energy. And then when they assumed that my clothes were, because I remember I had like a raincoat, and it was a nice raincoat, and this lady was like, "Wow, how did you get this?" And I'm like, "I have a free coat because I can't afford clothes, and you're like being mean and disrespectful and envious and treating me as if like it's not okay for me to have nice things." And I was like, that's not godly. And the thing was, the person that did that to me was somebody that the church put in a position as an evangelist or like a prophetess or something. And I was like, how are you considered that by the church if you're so mean? And then, oh, and then that same person, when I asked them for a ride, oh, by the way, if you ever want to see if people actually care or want to be involved, especially when you're homeless, just ask them for like a medial task. And if they disappear, you, you, let me put it this way. We, people kept saying they wanted to help, but then as soon as you say, "Hey, I need a ride to go to a food pantry," or "Hey, help me with this resource," like a job or a network or something, they just disappear. They would publicly seem like they cared, but in private, they would block you, ignore you, and pretend like you didn't exist when they see you in public. But when they saw you in church, when they saw us in church, they would pretend like they were engaging and caring. So, and then even the first lady and some of the other people, at that point, I had dreads, the dreads that I originally had when I started the channel, and I combed them out when we were living in this church's place, and my hair was uneven, and I could tell that people wanted me to look a certain way because I was in the church, especially the first lady and her friends, and I didn't do that because I don't care about, it's not my job to be the poster child for your seemingly goodness of heart. So I refused to dress up, and I refused to do twist outs to make my hair look like how it doesn't look. And people did not like that about me. And it's also not my position to meet your religious standards. And they were not happy with me because of that. And that's not where I am. That's not who Christ called me to be, and I'm not going to do that. That's something that my parents tried to do, and that's what a lot of people that are abusive want you to do. They want you to look a certain way, act a certain way, and appear as if they care about you, and they did not care. And I remember one time I was crying because I wanted to, at that time, God was telling me to serve in the church, and I was trying to serve, but was told that I had to wait 3 months to be able to serve. But at that time, I was already serving in the food pantry that they had, and but when I wanted to do something else out of that, then there was rules. So the rules changed for me, but seemed that everyone else was allowed to do that. Which again, if you know my testimony, that's also how my parents worked. In witchcraft, every goal was different for me. Every accomplishment that my siblings could make, I wasn't allowed to do, or the plan was moved. As well as God told me before I volunteered, He was like, "Hey, go to where they want you to go, but if they don't want you there, then don't be there. So a lot of people first made it seem as if they wanted me to like be on the praise team or be on the usher board. I even offered to clean the church for free while I was still looking for a job and being homeless. And I was rejected because of, I don't know, but she mean mugged me and she never talked to me again. But then said that no one was volunteering. So they wanted certain people that wasn't me. And then when I was supposed to praise dance, I told this lady that I wanted to praise dance for 3 months during the period of the orientation thing that they had. And then when I finally got to the point where I could actually do it, she never responded to me and she ghosted me too. So I was rejected in a place that was supposed to be God oriented, and a lot of the people that rejected me were people that were in their leadership, including the leadership as well. So I didn't understand how we could be so rejected by people that are supposed to be Christian. If we're all Christians, why am I outside of every group that's in this place? And even the places that we served, well, I was serving as well. I would praise dance. Well, I would listen to praise music during the food pantries and talk to myself because only one person would talk to me, or like one or two people. And they didn't really. I was pretty much ostracized, and I've never dealt with that level of rejection. And this church was like 300 people, and it was, I don't even think there was 5 people that genuinely had a real connection or relationship with me at the church, and I just didn't get it. And a lot of times when people did engage with me, it was very surface level, or God later pointed out to me that sometimes they were envious because I was married, or they thought that I was in a place of privilege because the church was helping me, and because I wanted for them to be honest of where we were and how the progression would be, that people saw me as if I was like ungrateful, even though they didn't even try to understand me or us or our situation. They just were like, oh, so, like, well, that's later on. But the thing is, people just they just made judgments without actually trying to understand. And there was no compassion, there was no desire to understand, there was no grace, mercy. It just felt like they were trying to punish us for being there, even though they're the ones that offered to help. Because when we asked for help, we didn't expect to be put inside of their house. We didn't know they had a house. And then I also noticed that people that needed help started asking us how we got help. And it's like, these people don't even like us, and you guys expect us to have like some extra hookup that I don't have. So people took our moment of, we have nowhere to go, we have nowhere to sleep, we'll be on the street if we don't have anything else except this. They took advantage of that and saw that as an opportunity. And all of these people were Christians at this church and at another church. So I never dealt with any of that before. These 7 months at this Christian church was harder than, honestly, the 4 years that I was homeless with my spouse. And yeah. Oh yeah, the pastor also said stuff about praise comparisons with people. I feel like because I wasn't, at that time I was praising by praying, or just standing and clapping, but I guess because I wasn't rolling around on the floor or jumping up and down, he saw that as less than. Because he said it multiple times and stared at me when he said it. But again, I'm not a person that's just like, he don't like me. A lot of times God gotta tell me, because I don't want to say something like that and be wrong. But he just acted like a lot of people I've met that are demonically or spiritually oppressed. I personally don't think that he's Christian at all, even though he's over a congregation and teaches the word. And I've realized, I was watching this video where this lady was saying that God will use you to bring other people to Christ. And I think that's the circumstance with this church. And I think that a lot of times people think they're Christian and honestly they're gonna go to hell. I think a lot of times, and I think also that they're sending their congregation to hell as well sometimes. That they're just sucking their spirits dry of everything that is Christ-like. And I think that people also think that their human wisdom is Christ's wisdom, and it's not. I also saw this pastor beg God every Sunday to heal people, every Sunday, every Wednesday, pray for the same people, the same body parts, the same issues, and they weren't healed. But he always said that he saw people get healed from cancer and mental illness, but those people didn't even go to the church anymore. So I don't even know who he was talking about, because it was before me. And I noticed that a lot of people, that there was a person that actually confronted them during a women's meeting, and the women's meeting was so political. It was so media trained answers when people had questions about deep pain and deep issues. And it bothered me so much, because I felt like finally there's a women's group, and the women's group offers me nothing. And then when I went to their Bible Institute, it was very clear that the pastor was arrogant, and that if you didn't get it, then he thought you were either not listening or not learning or not smart enough to get it. And it hurt. It hurt me. It hurt me a lot. And that's not what Christ calls us to be. That's not what he wants the church to be. That's not what he wants his people to be. And this was a church that was not a church. And it's just, oh man. And a lot of his doctrine was just his opinion. His opinion. How can you teach a Bible Institute and be a pastor and say stuff that's unbiblical and be cruel? You can't be cruel and also have Christ. You're choosing to be cruel and saying that you're operating in Christ, and you're not. And that was hard to watch. And oh yeah. Oh yeah, so the way we got kicked out. I still think this is funny. The pantry, one of the pantry that was closing near them, when they learned that the other pantry that was near them that was closing, which was a great resource to me, because I walked 3 blocks to get there, and then I would come back and bring food. to the house. And eventually it closed, and this church was the only pantry in that area. And instead of being like, man, people are gonna lose a resource, they were like, we're gonna be the only ones in town over here. And I was like, that's not the way we're supposed to be going about that. But yeah, they didn't see it as this is a loss of resource for lots of people, and this would hurt the community. They saw it as we're the only church. And yeah, that's not right. And so the week that we were, I already felt God was calling me to pack up our stuff and slowly put things away because we were moving to another season. Because I had already been praying the whole time. I would have never, I'll be honest, I never would have stayed at this church if I didn't have anywhere to stay. Because when it became clear that this was not a place that I could grow, I would have definitely left. But I needed the help, and I knew that God was moving us to another space, but I didn't know where we were going to go. And I didn't know how we were going to get there. And not only that, like, during that time, also, I was working at a job, and I met this lady that had so many demons that it's like, it was like Legion in real life in the Bible. Like, this lady had so many demons that they were just enacting as soon as she met me. The first week I knew her, she was okay. And then after that, it's like, this lady tried to degrade me, tried to tell me how she was gonna boost me to be a better manager, but wouldn't tell me how to be a manager, and just was calling me stupid and like implying I was stupid without saying I was stupid. So I'm dealing with warfare all around from Christian people, and just demonic oppression, because this person was literally under demonic control to the point where it had to be at least 5 or 6 demons in one person. And I was praying a ton, but anyway. So I was walking back. I think I went to the store, and I was walking back towards the house, and I saw the pastor staring at me from across the street. And he was just staring, didn't wave, just stared. And I gotta tell y'all, when demonic forces are observing you, they just stare. They don't say anything. They don't have an expression. They just stare. And he just stared. And I was like, Lord, this man gonna kick us out. I was like, this may be the end of this. I was like, I know it's soon, but this might be it. And I went back inside the house, and I don't know, I was making videos, but in that time in the closet. And I was like, yeah, he might kick us out this week. How about that next week he kicked us out? They knocked on the door in the middle of the afternoon, and the thing too also is, the whole time we were like, hey, how long do we have to be here? We would like notice of when you want us to be out of here, or what the next steps is, or etc. Because we didn't just want to be out on the sidewalk, because that's what we were literally facing. And excuse me, I'm stretching my hand, and excuse me for burping. But again, they just walked up one day and was like, hey, we're gonna change this place into a nursing home, so we need you out. And we were like, okay. And I was like, do you mean right now? And we were volunteering, so this is just random day, didn't talk to us, because it's like, essentially, after telling us random rules, them not following it, we never knew where we stood, what we were supposed to do, how long we were going to be there, when we should get out. Because first it was 3 months, and then it turned to 7 months, and then it was 2 months, and then it again ended at 7 months. And yeah, they were like, yeah, we're going to turn into a nursing home, so you guys have to go. And we're like, okay, where are we going? And they just took us to a hotel and told us to stay there for a week, and that they would let us, like, they were like, the guy was like, oh yeah, we'll see how you do here. And then they just never talked to us again. And we lived in the hotel for a week. I think 6 days or a week. And then we just were on the street again. And then eventually moved here. And it's like what I was afraid of happened, but I was so thankful to be away from there. So thankful. So much peace to be away. Because I was like, Lord, we going to another season. And now I'm in another season. But anyway, my question is, are you even are you even Christian, right? So let's go back to another situation with a different church. We were homeless, and this was in Florida. We told this guy we were homeless at this food pantry in Florida. That was nice. It was a good food pantry. It was awesome. Pantries in Florida were great. But anyway, we told him we were homeless. He told us, and we have background in audio engineering. So he was like, hey, my church needs an audio engineer. And I was like, yeah, of course, I can mix your audio for you. And we went there. I mixed this guy's music live, and they were not happy. The pastor's kids kicked us off the equipment. They were very rude and mean, and when it came time for us to and this pastor pretended as if he, like, I guess you could say, cried mongered me. He like looked me in the eyes and just was like and then he tried to prophesy to me, and he was just like, I know you've had a bad life, I know it's been hard, fully knowing we were homeless before this. And then I cried. He pretended to cry and then cried in front of the congregation. They put us in a hotel for a night and raised money for it through the church, which we didn't know. And then when it came for him to actually pay us, and we also didn't ask them to put us in a hotel. Not that, we weren't thankful, but we actually could afford to be in a hotel because they paid for one night, and we ended up paying for 3 nights after that because we were like, why not? Don't feel like going. And when it came time for the pastor to actually pray with us, he was like, well, I put you in a hotel for a night, and you didn't really do that much work. And he's like, it really wasn't that great. And just, I've never met anybody so condescending and so disrespectful to a woman, because he was talking to me alone, and he was just mean. And I was like, this guy's not a Christian at all. And then the church that I was going before we moved here, and I stopped going to because I was doing the audio, as well as the church was struggling with their audio, and still has the same struggles since I last watched one of their streams. My school offered to, not my school, because my school, we're not associated, but one of my teachers at my school offered to give my church free help when he's been in the industry for 30-40 years, and they didn't want to do it. They didn't appreciate me when I did it for free, and the people that worked there were condescending to me because I went to school, and were just half doing everything. And when I figured that they didn't want to change and they didn't want to grow, but they wanted to half do things, and when I told them directly that's not going to work, or that's not a good idea, or you're only not helping, they didn't want to hear it. So I stopped volunteering and I stopped engaging in the ministry, because if you're not growing, I don't want to engage. because that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be improving ourselves in the name of Christ. We're not supposed to be half doing it and be like, well, it's fine for now. And then I also saw that an email that the pastor was sending to his staff that was working there for free, and he was very mean and disrespectful. And I was like, this is not a man of God. So I'm not involving myself in this church anymore. And my biological dad still goes there. And if he can go there and he's a warlock, that means you don't need to be there. So I'm not, yeah. I was like, yeah, we're good. As well as, I think when I first went to the church, I thought that the Holy Spirit was on the pastor, but I realized it was just on one of the pastor's nephews. So, yeah, you gotta follow where Christ is, and a lot of these people aren't ordained by Christ to be in church or a ministry, and a lot of people that volunteer at church or in places of authority at churches are not ordained to be doing what they're doing. A lot of times they're just popular within the church, so people put them in that position, and people don't talk about that, and they defend it, and they don't correct those people either. Because again, my family, which is warlock, my mom and dad were both in positions of power at my church, and nobody had the discernment to say or notice that they were witches or warlocks, or that they were selling half theology. So, again, the question, are you even Christian? Do you even believe in God? Is that even God ordained? So, that's why I make this series. That's why God told me to make this series. That's why I'm doing it. That's why we're here. Because we need to call out the church so people can stop believing in false doctrine that's going to lead them to hell. And we need to straighten up the church. So, and we need to straighten ourselves. Because that's what God calls us to. And I want to be in heaven. I want you guys to go to heaven, and I don't want you to be deceived. So that's why this is here, and I hope that you gained some type of insight or some type of clarity about Christian behavior and not Christian behavior, and seek God for whatever you need to seek God for, so that we can go to heaven, we can see each other in heaven, we could be together. So God bless you. God keep you. Have a great day.